You've probably been feeding your dog once or twice a day for years, maybe even decades. It feels normal. It feels responsible. But what if that routine, the one almost every dog owner follows, is actually doing more harm than good? I know that sounds hard to believe. But behind those big brown eyes and wagging tails, your dog's body might be struggling to cope with the very schedule you trust most. In this video, we'll break down the biggest dog feeding mistake most owners still make every single day, and how adjusting your dog's meal timing could improve digestion, mood, and even lifespan. From newborn puppies to 14-year-old rescues, here's what science, real stories, and veterinary insight have to say. So let's start at the very beginning with the stage where doing too much can actually cause the most harm. 1. Newborn to 2 months old. This might surprise you, but if your puppy is under 8 weeks old, you shouldn't be feeding them anything, not even puppy food. That's right, nothing but their mother's milk. At this age, a puppy's digestive system is incredibly fragile. They're not just eating to grow, they're building their entire immune system from scratch. Mother's milk isn't just calories, it's antibodies, it's enzymes, it's nature's perfect formula. Now I get it. You might see a tiny puppy and think, they must be starving. I should give them something. But early introduction to solids can cause more damage than you'd expect. Diarrhea, dehydration, and even long-term gut problems. Worse yet, if that pup was taken from its mother too soon, you're not just risking their body, you're risking their behavior. Studies show early separation can lead to anxiety, poor social skills, and a lifetime of stress. Have you ever adopted a puppy too young? How did they behave later on? Let us know in the comments. It could help someone else avoid the same mistake. Because when it comes to newborn pups, what you don't feed them is just as important as what you do. And once they hit 6 weeks, everything starts to shift. Now your role becomes critical, and what you feed, how often and when, that's where things get serious. 2 to 3 months old. Now that your puppy is between 2 and 3 months old, things change fast. Their body's growing like crazy, but their stomach, still tiny. And that's where a lot of well-meaning owners go wrong. This is the stage when many people switch to solid food, kibble, soft blends, maybe even raw. But they make one major mistake, feeding too little too far apart. Let me put it this way. Imagine feeding a human baby only twice a day. You wouldn't dream of it, right? So why do we do that with puppies? Their tiny stomachs can't hold much, but they need constant energy to grow. Without it, their blood sugar can drop fast, and that's not just inconvenient, it's dangerous. I've seen it firsthand. A 9-week-old poodle collapsed in front of me because her owner, busy with errands, missed a meal. Her blood sugar crashed. She was shaking, then limp. We got her stabilized, but she was lucky. That's why puppies at this age need 4 to 5 small meals a day, evenly spaced. It's not spoiling them, it's protecting them. And yes, it's a hassle. You might need timers, reminders, maybe even help from family. But skipping meals could lead to vomiting seizures or worse. Do you use tricks or alarms to stay on schedule? Your tip might literally save someone else's puppy. Because right now, it's all about structure balance and keeping that little system running strong. But once your pup reaches the 3-month mark, things start to settle. And this is where many owners rush the process, thinking fewer meals means progress. Let's slow that down and look closer. 3 to 6 months old. By the time your puppy hits 3 months, you might feel a little relief. They're sturdier, more energetic, and their digestion is stronger. This is when most people think, great, I can start feeding less often now. And you can, but only if you do it right. The most common mistake: cutting back too fast. I've seen it again and again. Owners go from 5 meals to 2 overnight, thinking it helps with digestion or discipline. But in reality, it shocks the system. Puppies at this stage still need structure 3 meals a day, spaced out morning, midday, and evening. That midday meal is especially important. Skip it, and you might notice bloating, stomach upset, or even mood swings. What many owners don't realize is that regular feeding times help regulate hormones like cortisol and serotonin, two things that directly affect your dog's behavior. Especially with sensitive breeds, inconsistency in meals can lead to irritability, restlessness, or even anxiety. If you've ever had a puppy that seemed off in the afternoon, pacing or snapping at toys, it might not be personality. It might just be hunger. So don't rush this phase. Reduce meals gradually over a few weeks, not in a weekend. Because feeding less isn't always feeding better, it's feeding smarter. And as your puppy approaches 6 months, their growth begins to slow. That's when most owners finally settle into the classic 2 meals a day rhythm. But just because it's common doesn't mean it's done right. Let's talk about how 2 meals can still go very wrong, especially if you time them wrong. 4. 6 months to 1 year. At 6 months old, your dog isn't a baby anymore. Their growth rate slows, their bones are more stable, and their digestion matures. This is when most owners switch to the adult routine 2 meals a day. And that's absolutely fine. But how you manage those 2 meals, that's where it can all fall apart. You'd be surprised how many people feed both meals at night. They're busy in the morning, they get home late, and they think giving one big bowl in the evening makes up for it. But dogs thrive on rhythm, especially hormonal rhythm. When you skip the morning meal, you're not just dealing with hunger. You're messing with their cortisol levels. Cortisol is a stress hormone, and when it spikes due to fasting, it can cause irritability, digestive issues, and even anxiety. Even spacing matters. Feeding at 8 a.m. and again at 8 p.m. is better than cramming both meals into one tight window. It helps your dog maintain stable energy, better mood, and more predictable bathroom habits. If your adolescent dog seems edgy in the afternoon or crashes hard before bed, it might not be just puppy behavior. It might be hormonal imbalance triggered by inconsistent feeding. So yes, 2 meals a day is the goal, but not just any 2. Time them right. Keep them consistent. And never skip. Because getting this stage right builds habits that carry into adulthood, and getting it wrong that can lead to the most serious health risks later on, especially if you own a large or deep-chested breed. Because for them, timing isn't just about mood, it's about survival. Let's talk about the silent danger most people never hear about bloat. 5. Adult dogs. Once your dog is fully grown, the big question always comes up, can I feed just once a day now? And the honest answer is, it depends. But if you have a large or deep-chested breed, like a German Shepherd, Great Dane, Doberman, or Lab, the answer is a firm no. Here's why. When you feed a big dog one large meal a day, their stomach can expand rapidly. And that sudden stretching, it can lead to a condition called bloat, or more specifically, gastric dilatation volvulus GDV. It's not just uncomfortable, it's deadly. In fact, studies show dogs fed once a day are 2.7 times more likely to develop GDV than those fed twice a day. I know some of you have fed your dogs once daily for years with no problem. But bloat doesn't give warnings. It happens fast. Within hours, your dog can go from fine to fighting for their life. Even the American Kennel Club recommends splitting meals for breeds prone to this condition. Smaller, more consistent portions reduce stomach pressure, improve digestion, and help maintain healthy insulin levels, especially as dogs get older. I've talked to owners who lost their dogs suddenly and never knew it was tied to feeding habits. That kind of pain sticks with you. And if you've ever heard your dog groan after eating or seen them rush to lie down right after a heavy dinner, that's a red flag. Your dog may beg all day, act like they're starving. But don't give in. Stick to the schedule. 2 meals well-timed could literally save their life. And if your dog's already older, the risk only increases. Their digestion slows, their metabolism shifts, and their organs work harder. So now, let's talk about the stage that often gets overlooked, the senior years. Because for our older dogs, how we feed them becomes just as important as what we feed them. 6. Senior dogs. As your dog enters their senior years, maybe 10, 12, even 14 years old, you start noticing the small changes. They move slower, sleep more, and sometimes they skip meals. Many owners chalk it up to old age. She's just not hungry, they say. But what if it's not the food itself, but the way it's being given? Older dogs often have weakened digestion, reduced kidney or liver function, and increased sensitivity to hunger-related nausea. Feeding them just once or twice a day, especially with long gaps in between, can trigger bile vomiting, restlessness, and refusal to eat. I've had clients come in worried that their dog was going downhill only to see a complete turnaround after switching to smaller, more frequent meals. The science backs it up. A veterinary journal study found that senior dogs who were fed 3 to 4 small meals a day lived longer and showed fewer signs of stress and anxiety. Just like humans, their metabolism needs a gentle, steady rhythm, not big surges followed by long waits. If your dog is on medication, frequent feeding also helps reduce stomach irritation and improves absorption. It becomes part of a routine they can count on, especially helpful for rescue dogs with food anxiety or older dogs showing signs of canine cognitive decline. One man told me his 14-year-old lab had stopped eating breakfast for months. They thought she was just fading. But when they added a small late-night snack and split dinner into 2 parts, she perked up, started wagging again. They got another 1.5 years of quality time just from adjusting her meal timing. So if your senior dog is slowing down, don't just assume it's age. Re-examine how and when you feed them. That one small change could mean more energy, better moods, and yes, more years together. And speaking of meals, there's one more thing we often overlook. Not what you feed, not when, but how fast they eat it. Let's talk about eating speed and why it matters more than you think. 7. Tips to slow down eating. Have you ever watched your dog inhale their food like it's the last meal on earth? Bowl down, gone in seconds. For some owners, it feels like a funny quirk. For others, it's annoying. But for your dog, it could be a sign of stress. Or worse, a leftover instinct from a past life where food meant survival. Especially in rescue dogs, fast eating can be a red flag. It puts pressure on the stomach, increases air intake, and in large breeds raises the risk of bloat. But even beyond the physical, it creates a cycle of anxiety. Mealtime becomes frantic, tense. It's not feeding, it's racing. Luckily, slowing them down doesn't take much. Try using a slow feeder bowl with ridges, or scatter their food across a clean mat. You can even roll it up in a towel, hide it in a toy, or hand-feed small portions. These tiny adjustments not only improve digestion, they turn meals into a calming ritual. A study in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior showed that dogs who foraged for their meals, searching, sniffing, working, showed reduced anxiety in just 2 weeks. Mealtime became mental time, and the change lasted all day. What's your trick to slow your dog down? Let us know in the comments. Someone might need exactly that idea. Because at the end of the day, feeding isn't just about filling a bowl, it's about creating a rhythm that brings safety, calm, and joy. And with everything we've learned so far, there's just one truth left to say. You've raised dogs for years, maybe even decades. You've cared for them through storms, vet visits, and long walks in the dark. Feeding them once or twice a day, it always felt right. It felt loving. But now, maybe you're seeing things differently. Because sometimes the routines we trust most turn out to be the ones we never questioned. Today we've looked at puppies needing meals every few hours, seniors thriving on smaller portions, and large breeds that face real danger from just one big meal. You've seen the research, the stories, maybe even your own habits reflected here. The good news? It's never too late to make a change. A new schedule, a gentler rhythm, one that supports their body, their mood, and their years ahead. So now I'll ask you, how many times a day does your dog eat? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if this video opened your eyes, even a little, stay with us. There's still so much more to explore.